I could dissect this in a bunch of different ways, but let's just make it short and simple. You got a brand new head coach who doesn't know what in the crap he's doing. When your own head coach is saying after games that some of your defensive players don't even know what they're doing out there, yeah, I'd say that's concerning. $10.2. Let me say that again. 10.2. I know exactly what you're sitting there saying to yourself. Yo, Matt, what does that number mean? Well, my friend, I'm glad you asked that question because I would love to explain this to all the college football and especially Oklahoma fans out there. The number 10.2 represents how many yards per play that TCU averaged in the first half against Oklahoma on Saturday. 10.2 yards per play. I don't know about y'all, but I would say that's pretty good. That's pretty impressive. And I think even casual football fans know this. Averaging 10.2 yards per play means every single time you snap the football, you get a first down. To go on top of that and make matters even worse, TCU had over 400 yards of total offense in the first half. Not the game, not through 3 quarters, but 2 quarters. At halftime, TCU had 41 points, which means, theoretically speaking, they could have scored 82 points if they did the same thing in the first half, but they took their foot off the gas, thankfully. I don't like to get too analytical with you guys, and I think most of you, if you've been watching the channel for a while and you've been subscribed, you know this. Whenever it comes to football and basketball, I'm more of the eye test. Yes, I do pay attention to the numbers because they do matter. If they didn't matter, we wouldn't keep up with them, but I like the eye test a little more. I don't like to judge a player off of the box score. I like to judge him off of how he played. If I had to put a number on it, I would say the box score, it gives you a pretty good perspective 80 to 85% of the time. However, that other 15 to 20%, it can be deceiving. Why is that? Because I've seen case and scenarios where a quarterback has 0 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, and you look at it and you go, dang, he's the reason they lost the game, but those 2 interceptions were because wide receivers dropped the passes and the other team picked it off because of a deflection. So you see what I'm saying with that, but still, we gotta talk about these numbers. Before I even get into them, I'm gonna remind you, all throughout this video, TCU showed mercy to Oklahoma. I'm sure some of you saw this video. I'll pop it up right here. In yesterday's recap video, we talked about this game for about 8 minutes, which is a long time. That was the recap video though. We was just going over the highlights. I already made it up in my mind. This game and the Oklahoma situation going on right now, it deserves its own video entirely. The recap, we can't go over and dive into all the details that I want to touch on. And in this video, that's exactly what we're about to do, and things are not looking good for Oklahoma, and that goes without being said. I don't need to say that. Hold on, real quick. I didn't talk about this in the recap, and I should have. I just forgot. Did some of y'all watch that LSU and Auburn game? I know it wasn't as big as it normally is. Neither of these teams were ranked, but it was a big game for Brian Harsin, which is Auburn's head coach. I want to show you these numbers right here, and if I showed you these before the game, do you think LSU would have won? Their quarterback, Jaden Daniels, was 8 for 20, had 80 passing yards, a QBR 61. Their backup was 2 for 6 with 5 passing yards. They only had 85 passing yards, and they won this game. LSU only had 270 total yards of offense, and they won. This was the cherry on top for Auburn, and this is how their season will continue to go this year. Their quarterback goes 19 for 38, 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and that 1 interception was very important because it was the game-losing one. If some of you saw it, you know what I'm talking about. He completed a pass to what looked to be his wide receiver, then out of nowhere, an LSU defender rips it out of his hand, and that's the ball game. And of course, everybody in Twitter is saying it for, what is it now, like the 6th straight week, fire Brian Harsin, they want Deion Sanders. I've already predicted primetime will go there. I just feel like it's a matter of when. Probably be at the end of the year. I do want to bring that up though and talk about it a little bit because I forgot to in the recap. My fault for that. All right, now let's get back on with our regular schedule programming. If you don't understand that things aren't going good for Oklahoma, I don't know what to tell you. Anyways, moving along, in the game, TCU had 668 total yards of offense. Once again, 400 of those came in the first half, essentially meaning they could have easily had 800 yards. Whew, yikes, man, yikes. But here's an even scarier number. They average 8.8 yards per carry. The quarterback for TCU, Max Duggan, had a complete field day, 23 for 33, 300 passing yards with 3 touchdowns, 0 INTs, and a QBR of nearly perfect. Oh yeah, can't forget to mention and throw in there, he had 5 carries for 116 yards. Mr. Max Duggan, yes, Max freaking Duggan himself had more yards than Oklahoma's entire team. But whoa, hold on. Here's where things get even more interesting. After the game, Brent Venables said that one of his players didn't even know what he was doing out there. The player he's referring to is a freshman linebacker that goes by the name of Jaron Koenig. I believe that's how you say his last name. If I'm wrong on that, I do apologize. Whether I'm saying his last name right or wrong, I think that's the least of concern for Oklahoma fans. The major concern is your head coach is saying that some of your players don't even know what they're doing out there. When your own head coach is saying after games that some of your defensive players don't even know what they're doing out there, yeah, I'd say that's concerning. I can't even believe he said that. Even if he thought it, you shouldn't say that, because now it sounds like as a head coach, you don't know what you're doing. I get it. Jaren's a freshman. He probably doesn't know what he's doing, but why say that to the media? It makes it 10 times worse. If you do want to try to cover up for him, at least say, hey, he's a young guy and he's still learning. Don't say he doesn't know what he's doing. Gosh, man, I can't stress enough. I didn't like that. Maybe for some of you, it doesn't bother you. To me, I thought that's just something you can't say. Like, come on, man. He's been playing football his entire life. He's a football player. Don't say he doesn't know what he's doing. I'm not saying that football isn't a complicated sport, because to a casual person it is, but for these guys that are on these college teams, they've been playing their entire life. It's rather simple. If you play defense, you try to stop the offense. If you play offense, you try to put the ball in the end zone. Simple. Stop trying to complicate it. And a matter of fact, I think it'd be better if this Jaren Kanan kid wasn't doing what the defense was telling him to do, because they couldn't stop anybody. I mean, seriously, I wish I was joking about this, but I'm not. It couldn't have got worse Saturday. You would have been better off plugging in 11 of your best athletes, putting them on defense, and say, hey, go make me a play. I'm asking you a question, Oklahoma fans. Am I wrong about that? Am I misjudged in that statement? That's enough about that. I could continue to rant about that. Let's move on to some serious stuff. I'm sorry. So now, Oklahoma fans, they are really strong, and y'all know how I feel about the fan base. I love it. I just love how they love their team. I admire them so much. Now they're starting a new hashtag on Twitter called #TrustBV. If you don't know what that means, BV stands for Brent Venables. Let me just read off this tweet that somebody tweeted out there, and I'm just selecting off a random one. Coach Venables called it before the season started. There will be a lot of growing pains we will endure. Some of you so-called OU fans overlooked that, and I always felt this team was not on a level we needed to be. #TrustBV. Real OU fan support no matter what. Once again, let me clarify this. I admire and respect Oklahoma fans because they love their team and they always support them. However, on the contrary, there is not an excuse to lose by 31 points to TCU. I always love giving credit when it's due, because you know I'm going to dish out the criticism when it's also due, but come on now, TCU's not that dang good. I will give TCU this. I think they're a good football team. I don't think they're a really good team. I don't think they're a great team. And when I say good, let me give you a better perspective. I think good is anywhere between 15 to 20. For example, I think Tennessee is a really good team. And then you start getting into the categories of a Clemson, Ohio State, Georgia, and Alabama. Those are your great and elite teams. TCU, give them credit. They played awesome on offense. Defense was good enough to win the game. But let's also not act like Oklahoma's defense isn't dog crap. The week before, they gave up 37 to Kansas State. So yes, TCU, much respect and love. But beating Oklahoma by 31 points, it's inexcusable. And I'm about to really cut into the Oklahoma fan base in this next statement, and some of y'all might not like this. I find it so funny how at the beginning of the year, y'all were talking about how, hey, we're not going to take a step back from losing Lincoln Riley. He's a snake. He's not the guy we need to lead the culture. And now all of a sudden it's, oh yeah, I knew we were going to be bad. It's a rebuilding year. We're going to go 7-5. All my college football fans around the country, you know what I'm talking about. Oklahoma fans weren't saying this was going to be a rebuild year. They were saying Brent Venables has come in and he's going to shock the world. And hey, I was right there with y'all. I was wrong. I thought Brent Venables was going to do a way better job than what he's currently doing. The only word to describe what has happened to the Oklahoma fan base in the past 2 weeks is humble. They've been served a piece of humble pie, and probably the biggest piece you'll ever see. As a matter of fact, let me change that statement. They weren't served a piece of humble pie. They were served a whole entire humble pie. And now I got to bring this up. Maybe, just maybe, some of these OU fans will start to respect Lincoln Riley a tad bit more. Maybe some of them will actually come to terms with it and say, hey, Lincoln Riley, I hate he snaked us over. He shouldn't have done us that way, but he was a pretty dang good head coach. Although I don't like Lincoln Riley, maybe he wasn't the reason our defense was that bad. Here's the thing with that. Deep down, OU fans, you know Lincoln Riley's a great head coach, but some of y'all wouldn't say that. And I don't blame you for not throwing that statement out there, not tweeting about that, because you shouldn't. He snaked over your program. To put it into a better perspective so me and you can relate even more, that'd be like your girlfriend cheating on you and leaving you after 5 years, and then one of your friends asks what happened, and you say, oh, she's the best girlfriend in the world. Oh yeah, she couldn't do anything wrong. We broke up and it's my fault. You see what I'm saying? That just doesn't make sense. If your girlfriend cheated on you and left you for another guy within a blink of an eye, why would you tell people she's the best girlfriend in the world? At the beginning of the year and all into the offseason, I originally was saying and claiming that I thought Brent Venables, he fit Oklahoma's culture better, and in the long term it'd be better. but I don't know. I know the past 2 weeks have been rough, and I don't want to just riddle him off this quick, but it's not looking good, and I think that's a nice way to say it. I'm not going to overreact to this last game against TCU, and I'll explain why. I have a couple of different sayings and mottos that I live my life by. One of those mottos, and it's going to be what I apply to this situation, is I never get too high on a win, and I never get too low on a loss. If things are going really good for me in life, I never try to get too happy or too excited, and if things are going really bad, I never try to get too down on myself, because I know it's going to even itself out. You have to understand, things aren't always going to be really, really good, and they're not always going to be really, really bad. Unfortunately for Venables and Oklahoma, most people don't think that way. A lot of people are going to overreact in every situation in life, including these 2 losses. I could dissect this in a bunch of different ways, but let's just make it short and simple. You got a brand new head coach who doesn't know what in the crap he's doing. It's as simple as that. I can't dumb it down anymore. He doesn't know what's going on. Yeah, sure, you can get away with not knowing what you're doing in the first 2 or 3 games when you're playing nobodies, but once you enter conference play, you will get exposed. You can take that how you want. You also got to remember to take into account, what is Venables' specialty? Oh, wait a minute, that's right, defense. And when your defense is arguably one of the worst in the country right now, that's a red flag. You can do what you want with this information. I'm just telling you the truth. Looking ahead at their schedule, it's not too rough, but I wouldn't say it's easy. You got the big showdown at 11 a.m. against Texas. I don't think this game's going to be too hyped up. Texas and Oklahoma, they already got 2 losses. I'd be lying, though, if I said it wasn't a big game. It is. It doesn't matter if these teams are 0-12. It's always going to be hype. Then after that, you got the surprising Kansas Jayhawks sitting at 5-0. After that, you got Iowa State, Baylor, West Virginia, Oklahoma State. Like I said, not the toughest schedule, but the way they've been playing, I don't even know what to expect. You're talking about they could still lose possibly maybe 3 or 4 more games this year. That's if they don't turn it around. That's all I got for today. I am curious. Let me know your thoughts down below. But right away, Billy!